Hey everybody, Alex here, and welcome to another video. So, little change of pace for today. I actually wanted to talk about the other side of appreciating video games and having a favorite genre and a favorite game series and all that. What happens if all of a sudden you just don't like it anymore? What if it just doesn't appeal to you anymore? What if that specific style of video game just isn't fun anymore? Like, what do you do with that? So, this actually came about with me personally, more so recently, after basically being in denial for several months. I am personally done with Souls games, or anything along the lines of, I guess you could say, a Souls-like, or like a blatantly difficult action RPG in the style of From Software. And is it a little bit of the get good thing? Yeah, sure. Like, I'm not going to lie about that. But to my credit, I have beaten Demon Souls. I did do the entire Dark Souls trilogy. I beat Elden Ring technically twice, or three times. And the other one I finished was Neo 1, Neo 2, and there's one other one. Bloodborne was the other one I finished too. Finished all those. Had an amazing experience with each and every one of them. They're iterations of one another. But guess what? It really started with that Demon Souls remake on PS5. Brilliant game. I love the fact that Bluepoint left in all the glitches that were in the original Demon Souls, because truthfully, that's how I got through it on the PS3, because I'm not built for these games. Not even in the slightest am I built for these games. I do appreciate the fact that you can die on a boss and be like, okay, I got greedy. I panicked. I rolled to the right as opposed to the left, which apparently is like the international cheat code for most Souls bosses. For whatever reason, it doesn't fucking work for me. But in that remake, I went about doing things the way I did in the original game. You know, going to that island with the skeletons, leveling up a bunch, going back to, I think it's the first world, getting a certain item, defeating the dragon by taking pot shots with a bow for like an hour and a half. Did all that same stuff, and I had a blast doing it. But after that spider boss, which I want to say it's the one in the tunnel, all of a sudden, reality kind of set in. I was like, I've already done this before, and I died. I stupidly died because I was rushing, because I knew what I was doing, allegedly. And I was like, all right, fine, whatever. You know, I got greedy. Then I died again. And I was like, okay, now you're just rushing, Alex. You got to pump the brakes and relax. Then I died again. Then something stupid happened, and the frustration built, and eventually I just said, you know, I've already beaten this game. This remake is great. I want to leave it at the fact that I got this on the PS5 launch, and I think Bluepoint continues to do a phenomenal job, and I'm going to walk away. Sekiro. I didn't even beat the second boss. I got so frustrated that I literally said, I've spent 8 hours trying to beat this guy. I know the pattern, but my reflexes just aren't there. And could you train? Could you get good? All these things, sure. But guess what? And this isn't a knock on anybody, like from like a personal perspective, but this is just me. I don't have time for that shit anymore. I really don't. I play games for enjoyment. Now, do I appreciate a challenge? Sure. Do some people who play these games play these for the challenge? And that, okay, if I do it this way, the strategizing, all that stuff, I love it. I eat it all up. I am all about that stuff. But if I'm spending 4, 5, 6 hours just trying to beat one boss, and I literally feel like I'm just banging my head against the wall, and trust me, it has happened with every single one of these games, including the ones I finished, I just can't do it anymore. I really can't. I tried to play Lords of the Fallen. I couldn't even beat the first boss. And I spent maybe 2 or 3 hours trying it over and over again. And my wife has watched me play tons of these games. And she'll even tell me, like, you got cheesed on that one. Or she'll be like, you were rushing, or you were panicking, or you got greedy. You know, you were going for an extra swing when you know you should really only go for 2. You got to duck and weave. You got to sting like a butterfly, and all the flutter like a butterfly, sting like a bee. You got to do all that stuff. And I wasn't having it. And eventually I literally just turned the game off and I said, you know what? I'm not having a good time. I literally am not. And it also recently happened with me trying to play Armored Core 6. Can't even beat the tutorial. I can't. It is so long. And I know I've played Armored Core games before, and admittedly, as much as I love mechs, you guys know I love mechs, and I love Gundam and all that, Armored Core games for me have been a little bit too hardcore. And I realize now when it comes to these action RPG things, truthfully, and this is me not taking a knee, but me coming to a realization, I prefer an arcadey style experience at this point. I'm not about sitting there and doing all this background material just to be able to beat Ameliana or something along those lines, or Smog, you know, or Smog or whatever his name is. I just don't have it in me anymore. I'm not built for that. And it's kind of disappointing. And I do feel like I'm selling myself short here because, yeah, I could get good. Yeah, I could spend 90 hours on a game again, have a brilliant experience, and feel like I accomplished something. When I beat Dark Souls 2, I dropped to my knees, literally, because that last boss was giving me so much difficulty. With Bloodborne, I actually had to go back and farm the weird umbilical cords or whatever it was, so I could summon a friend to come and die for me in the middle of it, because everybody sucks when you try to summon a friend, and myself included. And I still suffered to get that. Even a guy I saw with ridiculous gear, he must have been carried somehow, because he literally just died within the first 3 seconds. Maybe he saw me as a mooch, which truthfully I was, and he just said, screw this guy, and just died just to, you know, be funny to himself. And again, I'm kind of disappointed in myself. It's just, I'm not built for it. And it's not just Souls-like games or these hardcore action RPGs, right? Strategy games in terms of like resource management, like your SimCities, your city builders, your civilizations and whatnot. Growing up, I played those games for hours on end. When I got SimCity 3000, I think I played that for the better half of a year on a daily basis. Just trying to figure out why I enjoyed micromanaging so much and why I do not micromanage people in my day, but I like to micromanage a process to see something get done. Like, to me, that's kind of, it's weird, I know. It's something I kind of enjoy. Can't play them anymore. I have literally sat down to try another game of the latest Civilization, which I've already played through once. You know, I always win because I send people to space in like 1852. But regardless, I've tried to go back and play another game just because, you know, it's one more turn. It's kind of relaxing. And I'm bored to tears. Even more so like your real-time strategy games. Those I know I have to be in the mood for, and I have tons of them on Steam that I have not played. I literally have no desire to, because I just don't feel like committing to the strategy part of it. And it's really, really strange that I've all of a sudden started to develop this sort of hindrance towards these sort of genres in the last few years. Now, admittedly, I am older. Admittedly, you could argue I have less time. Maybe I just have too much stress going on in my life and I just want to turn my brain off, smash buttons, and not so much plan out 3 turns in advance or 4 turns in advance, which admittedly is also too little. Maybe that's where I am. Or maybe as a gamer, I'm evolving or devolving, as it were, right? Because as I've gotten older, certain genres I will fall back on as comfort food, right? Your platformers, mostly the 2D ones. I've fallen back on turn-based JRPGs. I've fallen back on some retro stuff. Games like Metal Gear Solid, I can go back and play no problem whatsoever. Yet for whatever reason, the fact that the open worldness of the last one, which I think was 5, I forgot the subtitle, I don't want to commit that much time. I actually went back and checked my trophy list and saw how long I put into that game. I put in like 90 hours. I'm like, yep, that ain't happening again. And that's where I think it's really coming from. It's time commitment. As somebody who plays a lot of RPGs and is definitely not afraid of playing a long game, when it is something that I feel like I can invest a lot of time into and make progress or get a sense of accomplishment, I'm more than happy. But if it's something where out of, we'll say, 60 hours, I've spent 40 beating my head against one particular avenue, there's so much other stuff I could be doing. As it is, I try to record videos, for example, whenever I have a free 10, 15, 20 minutes. And, I am actively watching the countdown as I do these because I want to squeeze these in, give myself a buffer, and, be able to put these out on a semi-regular basis. That's my choice. That's my strategy. Playing a Souls game, I can't go in saying, yeah, I'll have this done by the end of the month. Yeah, that's just not a feasible strategy for me. And notice how I'm saying strategy in terms of playing a game. That is inherently incorrect, if you ask me. A game is meant to be played and enjoyed. Do I like to play strategy games? Do I like to, I'll say in a way, like, play the system where I can, and my wife has watched me play, like, strategy RPGs, and I will purposely do certain things, and she'll be like, why'd you do that? And all of a sudden she'll see me just do. And she'll be like, oh, I got it. You planned ahead. I'm like, yeah, like in Fire Emblem, for example, I'll always have one character with a shit ton of defense and HP, specifically for the reason of gathering people together so I can just combo everybody to death. Is it a risk versus reward thing? Yeah. Have I had to save scum in the past? Jury's still out on that one. But yeah, it's like that. I enjoy that sort of thing. And when it comes to like your Dark Souls and your Bloodborns and your Elden Rings, yeah, there's a degree of strategy in it too. But there have been so many instances, particularly in Elden Ring, with my wife watching me because she enjoys watching these sorts of games because she likes to piece together all the lore too, which is the best part. She's like, dude, this boss is a piece of shit. Like, she's like, it's cool. She's like, but I'll be honest with you, Alex. You gotta figure out how to beat this thing because I'm sick and tired of seeing this cutscene with this woman coming out of the moon. It's not cool anymore. And every time you could say, yeah, but you get closer each time and this, that, the third. When you have crashed on the Elden Beast, on the last hit in the last cutscene, and it doesn't give you credits and it doesn't give you a trophy, you start to feel away. And truthfully, I beat the Elden Beast maybe 2 or 3 times, I think, out of maybe 40 tries. And he's not even that difficult. It's just I choke. Like, the tension in my body just eventually overtakes my brain. And honestly, that just makes it not fun anymore. And I would rather walk away from a game series I love and enjoy with the good stuff. Not being like, hey, I played all these From Software games and now they're a shitty developer because I can't beat their shit. No, they're brilliant freaking developers. They're super creative. They've literally taken something out of nothing from way back when, brought it into the modern era, and have expounded upon it and made it bigger and better than ever before. To the point where they literally created a genre. That is a huge accomplishment. And I was there, I'll say, at ground zero because I played Kingsfield and honestly hated it. Played Kingsfield 2. Hated it. I tried to play, what was the other one I tried to play? Echo Knight Beyond I played and finished several years ago with Steven Supremo. And honestly, it was a little weird. But I enjoyed it. And guess what? I didn't enjoy it because of the game. I enjoyed it because I was playing it with somebody else and we were both scratching our heads at what this game actually was. And that's the good part about this hobby. But when it reaches a point where you're just not having fun doing it anymore, and again, this is me talking, maybe it's age, maybe it's experience, maybe it's the fact I've played a ton of games, maybe it's just the fact that I don't like to spend up to an amount of hours on one particular game at any given time just to progress 2 inches. Maybe I'm just not built for it anymore. And in a way, I can't help but be upset. But in another way, I also can't help but think, this frees me up. You know? I won't have all these Soulsborne-y sort of games chilling in my backlog anymore. Am I going to get rid of them? No. The ones I finished, I'm absolutely keeping because there's memories tied to those. But moving forward, if they do make a Bloodborne 2, as of this recording, I don't know if I'm actually going to go into it. And, you know, there have been a lot of developers who've actually gone about making these games and tried to make them more accessible. And I'll be honest, and it's not a knock on them, because I've experienced the pure unadulterated version, trying to play something like your Steel Rising and whatnot, which has a lot of quality of life stuff in there, it just feels inherently, and I don't want to say cheap, but it just doesn't feel authentic to me. Like, I feel like I am cheating myself here. Like, I'm going for like the Diet Coke. That's a terrible analogy. I'm sorry, but seriously, the Diet Coke of Soulsborne games. Like, I want that full fat experience, and honestly, if I'm not built to do that anymore, I just gotta cut my losses and move on. But I want to ask you guys the same question. Is there a game series or a specific genre of games that you loved? Maybe when you were a kid, or maybe you didn't love it as a kid and all of a sudden you grew into it as an adult. You know, I've always loved rhythm games, but puzzle games as a kid, not so much. As an adult, when I have a couple of minutes here or there, I love doing some Puyo Puyo. I'm terrible at it. I love doing some Tetris from time to time, a little bit better at it. But I also can't stand Puzzles and Dragons. I think that match 3 bullshit is a piece of crap. But as a kid, I ate those up, strangely enough. So what about you guys? Tell me. Any particular genres you feel like you've dropped out of? What happened? Why did it happen? Or is there a genre you've all of a sudden discovered or rediscovered as you've gotten older? Because let's be honest. Yeah, we can have a favorite genre. Yeah, we can have a favorite game. Yeah, we can have a favorite series. But we're always changing as people, right? Our hobbies evolve with us. I have tons of hobbies. I only talk about video games for the most part. But my hobby in guitars started out with me playing almost every single day. Now I don't really play every single day, but instead I actually read and watch a bunch of technique videos that I can't do because I'm curious to see how people in the hobby are progressing. Because now it's all math-based, which to me is actually really fascinating. Anyway, I've been Alex, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.